Oh boy, time for another My Little Pony episode analysis. I wonder what the fun topic of this episode's gonna...
I've always sort of had a crush...
Okay, I guess we're on the Spike X Rarity episode now. I was, dreading getting to this one. Let's just analyze the episode and see where it takes us.
No distractions.
What? You're relying on magic to set off candles? How lazy are we getting? Listen, if Applejack was able to set off this campfire all by herself without magic, I'm sure you can set up a tiny little candle with your mouth. On that note...
Today is too important.
Too bad those windows up there don't have any curtains for you to shut. Now you're never going to be able to focus. Okay, I know that I'm getting caught up on the small details, but that's because I really don't want to get to the Spike X Rarity parts.
Re-shelving day.
Okay, I'm totally not stalling right now, but the number of books on the floor better match up with the numbers of the ones that were on the shelf. Let's see. I actually tried counting each of these one by one just to cross-reference them, and I would totally show you the whole recording of me counting, but OBS decided to crash while I was recording of all times. But needless to say, I didn't do the whole thing because this pile's like impossible to count. It looks like one of those "bet you can't name a single item in this photo" images. And when I saw that the numbers so far didn't match up, I stopped because I realized that some of these books must be covered by the books on top. So a better way would be to go frame by frame of these books falling and keep track of each one and make sure that none of them disappear. But you know what? Actually going frame by frame, I realized how tedious this must have been to animate. All for like 3 seconds of actual footage. So I'll just leave it at giving props to the animators for doing a good job with this.
Spike, what are you laughing at?
So Spike shows up laughing maniacally and talking about this gem thing.
Hey, you took my advice. Just use the whole floor as one big shelf.
Roasted! At least this episode's starting off strong. Especially with how rage-baited Twilight got here.
Twilight! Is that a fire, Ruby? Next week's my birthday, and this is my birthday dinner.
Whoa. I just got hit with a wave of nostalgia here. So, a while ago, my friend was crying about the fact that her boyfriend broke up with her, and, okay, maybe I secretly liked her a little and was hoping for a shot with her, or maybe I wasn't. I don't know. Who's to say, right? You get the picture. Anyway, she was kind of breaking down crying because she misses him. You know, I kind of weaseled my way and said, "Hannah, don't cry. You've got me. I'm here for you." And then she became even more devastated and started crying harder, and this is kind of what she looked like. Good times.
I hope it's as tasty as it is beautiful, Spike. I've never seen anything quite so stunning before.
Safe to say she's never seen me before then, huh?
Then you should have it. This beautiful gem was meant to be with you. I don't know what to say.
So, the whole thing with this scene is that it leaves you wondering if Rarity was actually manipulating Spike, or if she was just speaking her mind about the gem, with Spike emotionally responding to it with a sense of altruism from being a simp, especially because of Rarity's reaction afterwards.
Thank you so much!
Is this a genuine reaction, or is she just trying to manipulate Spike? Or perhaps she is genuinely celebrating, but because he fell for it, and not because Spike was generous. I want you to ruminate on that question in the back of your head, because we're going to be coming back to this in much more detail later.
I will never wash this cheek again.
You know, at least with Spike mentioning how long his birthday is from now earlier,
Next week's my birthday.
even though we don't get a proper time transition like what we'd see in SpongeBob, we can still infer using basic logic from the information that we do have, which makes the reveal of the punchline of Spike literally never washing that area of his face being revealed to be pretty funny. Then again, he just says next week, so that could really mean anywhere from 1 to 13 days away from this scene, depending on what day of the week this was set in. For example, if this scene was on a Sunday, but his birthday was on a Saturday, that's still technically next week, which would maximize the punchline. And inversely, if this scene was a Saturday and his birthday was on the following Sunday, yeah, that's technically next week. But that's just, you know, like literally the next day, so that minimizes the punchline. So the impact of this whole joke actually is colored by your assumption of how much days in specific has passed between. But it's still better than nothing, sort of.
Don't you know you get presents on your birthday? Well, actually, this is my first birthday in Ponyville. I usually just get one present, a book.
You know, this whole Twilight giving Spike books as gifts thing might actually be a cross-reference to this exchange from Luna Eclipsed.
Did you even read that book I gave you about obscure unicorn history?
That book may have possibly been a previous birthday gift that she got him, which actually recontextualizes that exchange to be a little heartbreaking for Twilight. Especially because I think we can tell at this point that books are Twilight's love language, so the fact that that book was probably a birthday gift and Spike just completely ignores it is that's quite something.
Speaking of presents, this is from my new line of taffeta cakes. I'm gonna make one for each of you.
Wow. Did she seriously just go to Spike's birthday party to advertise the fact that she's going to give everyone except him a special present? Especially because she goes on to elaborate that his exclusion is by the work of his own hands.
I've been inspired by the generosity of my little Spiky Wikey, who gave me this beautiful fire ruby, one of the kindest acts I've ever experienced.
Well, that's inconsiderate. And we know for a fact that she wasn't referring to Spike as one of her friends here because she makes these dresses by the end of the episode and Spike is without one. What the heck? Either way, Pinky lets Spike know that he has a special confectionery made for him.
Sapphire!
And this interaction happens.
Oh, what a day!
Man, she's goofy.
It's my birthday today.
Well, happy birthday, Spike!
While it is a bit of an odd pairing, the whole Spike and Shirley dynamic was previously seen in the Showstoppers, and when we talked about that episode, I brought this up. What the f is Spike doing here? Yes, we've seen that he's passionate about announcing and stuff, but between this and Shirley visiting Twilight earlier, it's like there's a whole other side to this episode with a full plot involving Shirley that we'll never get to see. First of all, holy crap, why did I sound so needlessly angry back then? But second of all, more importantly, I'm glad that there's at least some consistency with these two having a friendship that's going on off screen. That's sort of good world building. It's just that they never do anything with this, nor give us an explanation of how they met. So, but speaking of off screen, something that's on screen is this Derpy cameo, which is cute and all, especially in conjunction with the fact that we've got half of the real main six here. This is awesome. Then again, every time we're counting these Derpy cameos, it's like a countdown to a controversy that's coming up real soon.
Pinkie Pie mentions my birthday to the cakes, and I get a cupcake. I mention it to Cheerilee, and I get this great hat.
Anyways, this is when we get to the whole conflict of this episode. Spike being greedy and trying to get handouts.
Hey, Junebug! It's my birthday!
The part I don't like about this is how this is where we get Junebug's only real appearance throughout the show.
I don't have anything.
They gave this random character a voice line and somewhat of a personality as well, and they never revisit her. Which just betrays how it complimented the episode for having good-ish world building and consistency between, you know, Spike and Shirley's friendship. Awesome. What I found pretty interesting is what Spike says here.
I don't know what got into me. Thanks for snapping me out of it.
This is the same turn of phrase we've seen him use before.
Snap out of it!
Now, I have no idea if this was on purpose or not, but this is a fantastic reflection of how everyone has like a certain vocabulary that is distinct to them, filled with specific expression and quirks. For example, I'm sure out of the hours and hours of footage of me online and recordings of my voice online, I'm sure I've used like the same specific uncommon expressions throughout. For example, I get comments all the time pointing out how I use particular phrases more frequently than I should. You know, stuff like that. So if this was actually a subtle way of doing that, that's genius.
Wow, what a rough night's sleep, Spike. I had the weirdest dream.
So the next day...
What's happening to me, Twilight?
What? That's disgusting! One thing I didn't really appreciate about this episode when I first watched it as a kid was that it seems to sort of imply that Spike is going to end up looking like this when he's older, or needs to be greedy in order to grow, which is, not an excellent decision if you want, you know, character growth and development. But now I'm thinking he probably only grew this way because of the greed, and natural growth will make him look less disgusting, especially when comparing his giant design from the result of greed compared to his giant design from being magicked as a newborn. But I guess only time will tell with that. Who's the brave one? It's nothing short of a miracle that this guy's entire face didn't straight up melt off. But regardless, shouldn't this guy's head have technically been transported to Canterlot, since this seems to be the same method Spike uses to send letters there?
If Spike continues to collect, more growth will certainly occur. He is going to turn into a monster.
Monster. That seems to be a little bit of an odd way of pronouncing it, just to fit in with this rhyme scheme. But on the bright side, speaking of monster, I shall crack open a can of it right now. Okay, good. The voices in my head went away and I can think clearly now. Where were we?
Get away from her, you brute!
Wow. Just like the Opal thing from a few episodes ago, this is another reference to the Alien franchise.
Get away from her, you bitch!
That's quite a line to reference in a show for little girls. But on that note, what is this white speck? I hope this doesn't come across as me trying to nitpick. I'm just genuinely curious as what this is. We can tell it's not part of the background since it follows Scootaloo's movements. Strange.
Spike! Blood!
Since when was that a room that exists? I guess if this is an actual library, it makes sense for there to be different rooms. Kind of like how libraries have different sections for different ages and literary styles and all that. Though, I don't know, I just found it weird. Anyways, here we get a pretty meta joke. In reaction to the news that it's Spike going around causing havoc, the two characters voiced by Ashley Ball laugh at it.
Oh, that's a good one, Twilight. Sweet little Spike running wild. What a laugh.
Don't tell me you tied yourselves up?
Get us out of here right now.
The two by Andrea Livman scream, which is even lampshaded by Rainbow Dash.
Sounded like Fluttershy to me. That sounded like Pinkie Pie.
And even though Tabitha St. Germain voices only one character in the main six and not two, they somehow still did something super clever because she technically is also sharing the same reaction with herself because they reused that one Rarity scream that they've been reusing. See, extra little layers and details to be discovered like this is what makes me love the show so much.
Now, who in Ponyville would steal my apples? For that matter, who would steal my leaves?
But he left the trunks. Good to see that there's some level of greed he won't cross. Wow, that's some remarkable precision that he was able to get his fingers in between the shelves to carry all that out, as opposed to, I don't know, just taking the entire shelf, I guess. In stark contrast to what I said earlier about Spike reusing the same phrasing he once used, which makes sense since he is the same person, we get this.
Put me down, you brute!
A reuse of the word brute, which doesn't seem like too common of a word that two unrelated characters would say separate from each other, but sure.
Drop her, Scaly! Hey!
Why did she say scaly as if it's a racial slur? Honestly, Rarity does say this.
You've got nothing to be proud of. Steal every pony's things, terrorize the town, and use me as a weapon against my own friends. Which, as horrible as it is, I can almost understand because you're a dragon and all.
Well, that's racist. Like, what did she mean by this? And now that I think about it, the fact that two separate characters used the word brute to describe him, that's probably also a slur for dragons, along with scaly. That's quite something. So the Wonderbolts show up and
The Wonderbolts!
they literally do nothing. They come into the episode out of nowhere. And they leave as soon as they show up. Did they just put these guys in here just because they needed 20 extra seconds they needed to fill? And why do the Wonderbolts need to do this? Celestia has Pegasus guards who could have easily done the exact same thing. Remember?
This was given to me by my dear friend, Spikey Wikey. And it is too precious to me to give to a greedy old beast like you.
I like how they reanimated this instead of reusing footage from earlier. That shows some heart and genuine effort, and not laziness. And I appreciate that a whole lot, since lesser shows would have reused what was shown earlier, kinda like what this exact show did in season 1.
This adventure has taught me to never lose faith in your friends. They can be an amazing source of strength and can help you overcome even your greatest fears.
That's great improvement. I mean, it's not like reusing footage drags the thing down by any means. It's just that not reusing footage gives it extra points, you know? But still, a few details have been changed in Spike's flashback compared to it happening earlier in the episode. Specifically the dialogue.
Then you should have it. This beautiful gem was meant to be with you. Here, Rarity, you take it. It would mean even more to see you happy than to eat it myself.
I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. This is so thoughtful. Oh, my little Spikey Wikey. This is just so generous.
Which is kind of cool since our memories in real life can change on their own. The basic fundamental details obviously remain the same, otherwise it's not a memory, but particular words and lighting and clothing can definitely change when trying to recall things. If that's what this was in reference to, That's pretty awesome. That and how I'm pretty sure we're all biologically hardwired, or at least self-taught, to remember ourselves in a more favorable light in our memories and interactions because, you know, we don't want to suck up our pride. So we'll always try to gaslight ourselves into thinking we're right and correct 100% of the time, or how we secretly won every argument. Therefore, it's a really cool detail that Spike remembers himself being much more of a wordsmith poet here, which not only is psychologically accurate, but it's also a good peek into psychoanalyzing Spike as a character, which is really fun. How did the writing get so good all of a sudden? Unless, of course, I'm, overthinking things like usual. Either way, then we're treated to this interaction.
Rarity, I need to tell you something, just in case we don't make it. I've always sort of had a crush.
We'll come back to this. So then things calm down and Rarity gives Spike a kiss.
It was you who stopped, you, from destroying Ponyville. You're my hero, Spikey Wikey.
Well, that's something. And Spike writes his friendship report to Princess Celestia.
Anything in the world.
Wow, I like how Spike's signature is actually somewhat legible, unlike literally everything else here.
Lots and lots of stuff.
What? They're not gonna complain about those free gifts that Rarity made them again, will they? Honestly, after Suited for Success, I'm shocked Rarity still wants to give these guys free dresses. Overall, this isn't a bad episode. I sure as heck enjoyed it more than the Cutie Pox. It has high stakes, which the last handful of episodes were lacking. Plus, the episode's premise and conflict provide some additional context and connotations to the only other two dragons we've seen in the show up till this episode's release, and how they're both big, greedy guys.
Obviously, I would be more than happy to keep an eye on your jewels while you're gone.
So he's just growing up? That doesn't explain why he keeps grabbing things.
A dragon's heart is prone to greed. A steady diet to make growth speed. Then, the resulting bigger size only makes their hunger rise.
That's pretty cool. Anywho, the elephant in the room, the whole Spike X Rarity thing. Is this appropriate? I'm honestly kind of split on this. Not on the relationship itself. Obviously, these two do not belong together. But I'm talking about the story potential here. On one hand, I like unrequited crush story arcs, especially if it's a long game thing, because it gives me a lot to look forward to, and every tiny piece of progress is super fun. And that's probably why I can't help but keep returning to this stupid pile of garbage, and why it's captivated me for years and years and years. Yes, I am eventually going to make a video on Miraculous. Just wait. Now, especially when, besides a callback here and there, it's not like, you know, My Little Pony is a linear plot-heavy show with a hard continuity in between episodes. And for example, in season 1, there was an episode that ended with Ponyville just being completely destroyed.
You saved my reputation with Princess Celestia. And more importantly, you saved Ponyville. Or not.
And the next episode, it's completely fine. Stuff like that. Which, I mean, obviously, I get why that's the case since, this is a show for the little girls that came out before streaming was the mainstream option of watching stuff. So I'm not faulting that at all. But if you were to be binging the show, like an actual show with a linear story, stuff like this kind of probably makes it feel a little disconnected in between episodes, especially because these episodes are all written by freelance writers and not by like a consistent same team. Therefore, if there were to be relationship dynamics that, progress little by little as the show goes on, that adds a lot of reward for people who do keep up with every episode. So I like that aspect, especially when there's been multiple instances of Spike's crush being a focal point in some episodes of season 1. On the other hand, I think a big part of the reason why like the whole long-term crush plotline thing is fun, for me at least, is because, these things are usually built on the implication that the relationship might happen at some point, so that you keep coming back to see if it actually does happen. Unlike when it involves a baby dragon and an adult pony. So that kind of changes this perspective of this whole unrequited crush thing to being more like the whole trope of a little boy developing weird little boy feelings on his babysitter. And why would I want to watch multiple episodes of that? It just sounds kind of disrespectful to our short time here on Earth, because I'm pretty sure if you've seen one of those, you've seen them all. Therefore, I decided to traverse the web to see what the consensus on this is, on what the majority think of Spike and Rarity's relationship, especially from near when the show was still young. And I found this thread that kind of encapsulates like most opinions of it. So, let me start off by saying that I do not intend to start a flame war here. I'm just trying to figure out what seems to be the most canon ship in the entire show. Then again, I've only just watched up to episode 10 of season 2, so there's still stuff I'm not aware of. Well, this guy seems like the perfect perspective to go through, since that is literally this episode, which means that this post isn't going to have the wealth of knowledge of where the ship goes that we have in retrospect. There's nothing really wrong with the whole thing, right? But yet, there does seem to be a problem with it. I still can't help but think it's strange. That means that there isn't nothing really wrong with the whole thing. What? Forgetting that they're different species, that doesn't really matter, I can't help but wonder, wait, Spike's a baby dragon, right? And I'm going to assume Rarity is a filly or something close to an adult, right? Now perhaps being a baby dragon means he could be closer to 15 or 16 years when it comes to human years, since dragons in most fantasy settings tend to live for thousands of years. And also, judging by the fact that Twilight aging from Spike's birth, there's actually probably been a good 15-ish years in between. I've never considered that before. But even still, something about how small he is coupled with the fact that he is constantly referred to as a baby dragon kind of bothers me. All the innocent kissing is fine, but honestly, after watching that episode, it really seemed like it was little more than that. I mean, he was going to confess his love to her right when he thought they were going to die. That was pretty intense. Bravo to the writers for doing something like this in what started as a children's cartoon. Okay, well, first of all, it still is a children's cartoon. Just because a bunch of adults watch it doesn't mean it's not a children's cartoon. Second of all, yeah, but that's on Spike's side. I don't think anyone necessarily has an issue with Spike's side of this. Only Rarity's treatment of him and how she practically leads on somebody way younger than her. And honestly, I do like the whole Spike x Rarity ship. I love it, in fact. But at the same time, I still can't help but find it strange. You can't just spend the entire post talking about how it bothers you and how you find it strange, and then proceed to say that you love it? Huh? Judging by how this post ends with, no flame war intended, and I hope I am not the only one who feels this way. I am still kind of newborn brony after all. I'm assuming it was just sugarcoating the fact that he finds the whole thing weird by ending it off on like damage control via trying to sound neutral to not get hate. But anyways, to bounce off this, I looked at the replies in this post, and like I said, I think these answers pretty much encapsulate the biggest opinions one may have on this dynamic. The first one being that it's weird because they're different species. Second one being the fact that they're different species is fine, but the age difference is weird. And third perspective is Rarity is manipulative, and I think this kind of transcends the whole age and species thing. Even if Spike was an appropriately aged individual here, and they were both ponies, Rarity's behavior seems to be a sticking point. As this poster says, I don't really like the Spike-Rarity ship because Rarity doesn't act like she cares for Spike much. She seems to kind of use her flashy female stuff to get what she wants out of him. I know him giving her that heart-shaped gem was sweet and very selfless and generous of Spike, but she only wanted it because it was pretty and valuable.
That must be at least 20 carats. No inclusions, pristine facets,
And totally delicious.
And he only gave it up because she connived for it a little bit. She didn't care that it was going to be delicious for him. He even told her it would be a wonderful special birthday dinner for himself. She didn't care. Then she defended it from crazy adult Spike, citing that a dear friend had given it to her, and that was why she didn't want it stolen. But I didn't believe her. Then she stops Spike mid-word from admitting his feelings to her. I felt that way she could continue to string him along without acknowledging out in the open his feelings. To not outright reject him would aid her in exploiting his feelings while keeping him at hoof's length in the friend zone. She praises him just enough and gives him enough affection for him to remain full momentum head over heels in her direction. Which is a good point. However, she might only be acting like this specifically because he's younger and a different species, meaning that this whole thing was doomed to fail no matter what. But on that note, this whole manipulation thing does tie into what I said we'll come back to earlier, as in the whole gem giving scene, since, like I alluded to, there's quite a bit of room for character interpretation, such as, I'm going to read this directly from this TV Tropes page, because they ask some pretty good questions and bring up some perspectives that are worth exploring, and I'll respond with my thoughts. Did Spike give Rarity the fire ruby out of his own generosity, or did Rarity seduce it out of him? Who's to say? I mean, probably a mix of both. Spike, as a younger guy with childlike purity, might be more prone to sharing. Actually, now that I say this out loud, I'm not sure, since I did some research into this, and there doesn't seem to be like a clear consensus on whether greed and sharing is innate or learned. Plus, even if there was, logic that applies to humans in real life may or may not apply to fictional dragons. However, Rarity obviously knows that she has authority over Spike in age, and also authority in that, he likes her. Therefore, it's probably more like Rarity did take advantage of Spike here. Related to that, was her biting her hoof her trying to resolve the moral dilemma of exploiting his crush, or her trying to get a hold of herself before speaking again, given that it's his even if she doesn't like what he plans to do with it? I read this as the latter option. I've never even considered it could be the former, since it being the first option would imply that Rarity is capable of self-reflection. And after our analysis of the previous episode, and a little bit of this one, I'm not too sure. But that's for you to decide. Was her gushing afterwards about his generosity further manipulation, or just her being happy about it and thanking him? The episode's writer weighed in, giving support to the she wasn't trying to take it from him side. Dude, if the episode's writer weighed on one side, it's probably that one. However, even if it wasn't Rarity's intention here to be manipulative, it's still entirely possible Spike had an emotional response to it, which you can't really blame Rarity for. It's more up to Spike to learn how to regulate and control his emotions. But then again, Rarity probably should know better not to act a certain way when around Spike, when she knows that Spike is an impressionable kid who has feelings for her. Additionally, I don't know what to think of Rarity not allowing Spike to finish his confession as they were plummeting to their deaths. Was this an attempt to politely reject him, or was this to avoid having to verbally reject him and to instead employ an ambiguous action which could be taken either way in order to keep leading him on? But I think it's okay to leave this here for now because we are going to have more opportunities to talk about Spike and Rarity's relationship later on in the show. And enough about my opinions. What do you guys think about Spike and Rarity's dynamic? I'm actually curious to know what you guys think, especially in the context of whether you guys think Rarity was being manipulative here or Spike was just being susceptible.